Okay, we're gonna make our glaze icing first, and then we'll get our dough out and we'll, shape it and we'll cut it and we'll get it into our pan. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with some confectioner sugar, and we want to add 1 cup of it. Double check that. Yes, 1 cup of confectioner sugar. If you're weighing, it is 120 grams. So with confectioner sugar, you probably want to measure it very similarly to flour because we don't want to get it super packed down. It is quite like light and fluffy, and that is possible. And we want to avoid that. So the recipe said that you could use milk or coffee in this little glaze we're doing. Either way is fine. You can also really use water if you wanted to. I've used in the past actually even things like lemon juice or orange juice, and it gives it like a whole different vibe. It's really yummy. I like the orange in particular, especially around like Christmas time. So you can be kind of creative. All right, so I'm just spooning this in. When you get to the top, you want to level it off, which means get it exactly to the line, and dump it in. If your confectioner sugar is like super duper lumpy and you have a sifter, you could sift it. It's not required. You'll probably be able to get the lumps out with your whisk here in a second. All right, so 1 cup of confectioner sugar. I made a small mess. Let me clean it up. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add our liquid in. So like I said, you could use a milk, coffee. You can use a juice. I'm going to just use water right now, but you can use any of them. And we're going to add into that confectioner sugar in the same bowl. We're going to do 2 to 3 tablespoons of our liquid. Actually, you know what? Let's add our vanilla in first, and then we'll add our liquid in, because that way we'll really be able to tell the consistency. So, sorry. It's okay that you have your liquid ready. Let's grab our vanilla extract. We're going to do 1/2 teaspoon. So when you're looking at your spoons, your really big one is your tablespoon. Your next size down is probably a teaspoon. It says TSP on it, and then the next one down is a 1/2 teaspoon. It's like a 1/2. And this is just going to give us flavor. Now, if I was doing the orange, I would not add vanilla, personally, if I was doing like orange juice. If I was adding milk, if I was adding coffee or water, yes, vanilla would be great. Okay, so we have our vanilla in. And I'm not going to stir it yet. Don't need to. All right, so now we're going to add in our liquid. Going back. If I'm going a little bit too fast for you, since this is a video, just pause it and then resume it when you're finished measuring, whatever it is. If you're like, I didn't quite get that. Okay, so we're going to do 2 to 3 tablespoons. And remember, the recipe is in the classroom as well. If you need to look at some of these measurements, I can't put it in the chat box like I normally do in class. Okay, so 2 to 3 tablespoons. Why does it give us a range? Because one, confectioner sugar is kind of hard to measure, and it's pretty easy to have more of it than the recipe actually called for. So we really want to kind of eyeball the consistency here. And so we want it to still be drippy, but not like crazy thin. If you have it and you like take your whisk up and it just is like plop, plop, it's like lumps of stuff, that's too thick. We don't want it that thick. We do want it to be able to drip some. This is a sort of like glaze that as you put it on something, it's sort of like dry is, I guess that's the right word, and it'll sort of harden on it as it sits. All right, so start with the 2, and then you can add a 1/3 tablespoon if you need to. And if you end up with it too thin, it's like not just drippy, but like crazy thin, you can add more sugar. It's fine. All right, so once you get all that in there, just take your. I think this part is like so satisfying because it all just sort of like, it's like it melts together. Your confectioner sugar into your liquid. And I don't know, I find that to be very satisfying. Okay, so when we finish it, see how mine will drip? That's good. We want it to drip, okay? So if you're dripping and it's like, it drips some, but it like plops on the top and it doesn't go back in with everything else, like this drips down in there and it just sort of like disappears back into the rest of the glaze, the icing. If it just like lumps on top, it's too thick. Add a little bit more liquid, okay? And that's literally all you have to do. We'll just set this aside, and at the end, after everything's, finished everything, then you can add it to the top, but you'll have it ready to go. All right?